Alright, welcome back. Beans Ball Hour, Episode 3. It is July 8th, 2025, 12:13 p.m. Pacific is when I'm recording. Don't have a ton to talk about today because we are in the slow point of the NBA. So there's a few things we can go over before I start talking about, I don't know, whatever else I'll figure out as I go. The big thing that I want to talk about though is Jonas Valanciunas. So I forgot to mention him in last week's episode when I talked about how much I love Denver and how I think Denver might legitimately be able to compete with OKC in the West. And I completely didn't even mention the fact that they got Valanciunas, which was a big reason as to why I liked them so much. But we don't really know. We don't really know if they have him or not. He's in talks with a Greece club in the Euro League, Panathinaikos, to go over there to jump ship from the NBA back, or I don't know if he ever played in the Euro League, but he probably did. Go over to the Euro League and play in Greece. I don't know if he just really doesn't want to be in the NBA anymore, or if he's tired of living in America or what, because I think he's got a $25 million contract with Denver for 1 year. I'm pretty sure he signed 2 years, 50 million with the Wizards. Maybe it was 30 and it's 15 million. Either way, it's a lot of money that I don't think Panathinaikos is going to be able to match. But he wants to go, and the Nuggets are actively trying to convince him not to. I don't think the trade is like official yet in the league books. So I saw something that said once the trade goes fully through, that they're going to try and work something out and try to keep him for the next year because they really do need a backup center. And if it doesn't work out with Valanciunas, their options are pretty limited. Al Horford is still out there, but it's kind of felt this whole time like he's probably going to Golden State. But if they figure this out fast enough and and Jonas decides he's going, then maybe the Nuggets can jump in on Al Horford. I still don't think that's as good as Jonas at this point. They play very different games too. Um, I like Jonas there because I just like his offense off the bench and the fact that they can kind of still go towards a post heavy offense when Jokic is off the floor. Excuse me. Um, so I think that they really need to get this guy to play next year for them and then wait and go over to Greece after next season when his contract is expired. Um, there was a three-team trade that happened the other day that I completely forgot to pull up. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. Oh, why did this what Yahoo Sports? Why'd they have to put it like that? Hold on, ESPN. Does ESPN got me? ESPN never got me. What am I thinking? Where's Shams? Where's the Shams Twitter? Motherfucker. Shams don't got me neither. So essentially, the trade is Norman Powell to Miami, John Collins to the Clippers, and Kevin Love to the Jazz. That's the three guys that Bleacher Report has on the front. Has on the front thing. Okay, here we go. Clippers, Jazz, and Heat have agreed to a trade that sends Norman Powell to Miami, John Collins to Los Angeles, Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 Clippers second round pick to the Jazz. So the Clippers essentially turn Norman Powell into John Collins, and I don't know how I feel about that. I probably wouldn't do that. The thing, they must not want to give Norm an extension because I do think this is the last year he's on the books. And he was good last year, so he might, if he has another year like he did last year where he was like borderline all-star, they might have had to throw him a nice little bag. That clearly I don't think they wanted to do. But I think the move makes them worse right now. I really liked him in that role that he was in last year as like the secondary primary ball handler after James Harden, especially when Kawhi was out. So I liked that. I liked that fit for him. I feel like it felt like addition by subtraction. It was like he's obviously he wasn't as good as Paul. Well, he might have been as good as Paul George last year, but before that, you would have thought like, well, he's not as good as Paul George, but he can do some of the same stuff as Paul George, and it comes with a lot less of the ego stuff and of the like I'm a star, I need the ball, I need X number of shots. I don't care if we have James and Kawhi. I'm the guy too. You know, you kind of got a lot of the Paul George output without the Paul George input as far as the shit he had to say. And he was better than Paul George was last year. I mean, it was a disaster in Philly for Paul George. I don't think my guy's washed yet. And I do think my guy's washed, but I hope he's not washed. I want to still see Paul George go out and cook. But as far as this trade for the Clippers goes, it makes them worse next year. I'm not a big John Collins fan. I don't know what really he does. I mean, maybe he can be a good vertical lob threat for James Harden, but I don't know. Is John Collins really that? How old is he? He's 27, so I guess in theory he should still have bounce. I'm not gonna act like I've watched a ton of John Collins games since he's gone to Utah, because nobody watches. Who's watching Utah games? Nobody gives a fuck about Utah. Um, but he averaged 19 and 8 last year. I just don't. I don't know if I like his fit with the Clippers. It's like, what's their lineup gonna be? It's gonna be Harden. Who's the two? Now I have to look up the roster. So it would be Harden, Kawhi, John Collins, and Zubac. Oh, Ben Simmons is still on that roster. Maybe start Ben Simmons while we're at it. Imagine that. Harden, Ben Simmons, Kawhi. Oh, Coffee. They have Amir Coffee. They have Chris Dunn. Bogdanovich? Oh, Batum. Probably Batum. I know Batum says it's free agent. No, Batum left, didn't he? Yeah, Batum's gone. So it would be like Harden, Chris Dunn, Kawhi, John Collins, and Zubac. And then off the bench, they have Bogdan, Brook Lopez, Ben Simmons, and Derrick Jones Jr. I like the Clippers, man. I don't know what that I don't know what that does in the West. You know what? I do know what that does in the West. It's enough to make the playoffs again. It's enough to maybe compete in a first round series. It's enough to maybe win a first round series, depending on who you get. But probably not. It's probably another like 46 win season, first round matchup, and they lose. And I think the Clippers are probably fine with that right now because they still don't control their draft picks. Like for the most part, like they can't go into a full teardown tank until the OKC trade is complete. And then what did they give up for Harden? They must have given up like at least a pick to get Harden. So that might throw a wrench into it. That might be down the line. Let's see. 76% sent Harden, PJ Tucker, and Petrusev to the Clippers for Marcus Morris, Covington, Nick Batum, KJ Martin, a 2028 unprotected first round pick, 2 second-round picks, and a 2029 pick swap. And an additional first round pick from the Thunder. Oh my goodness. So the Clippers are sending a 2027 first round pick to OKC, a 2028 unprotected first round pick to Philly, a 2029 first round pick swap to Philly. So they don't control their drafts until 2030 and beyond. Assuming they don't make any more trades that involve trading first round picks. So that's probably their game plan for the next 5 years. Is just, hey, we built this new crazy $1 billion arena. We need to fill it up every night. We can't we can't be dog shit yet. We don't have our picks. So, you know what? Who else would give James Harden that crazy contract they gave him? Probably no one, but the Clippers kind of needed to, and I don't think they're going to be too hurt by it. And they gave Kawhi the extension last summer, and again, probably wasn't a smart basketball extension to give out to a guy that's very much been unproven to be able to stay healthy for a playoff run. But it's the Clippers. They kind of don't have a choice right now because they spent all this fucking money. Ballmer spent all this money on this arena. And Paul George leaves immediately. They just can't afford to. They put all of their chips into the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George basket. And they built this arena with the understanding that they're going to be competing and trying and winning championships. And it never happened. They never won a championship. They got to the conference finals when Kawhi was hurt. And that was the extent of it. They never really came that close because that was one year where the West was even the West was a little weak that year. That was a weird year, 2021. Phoenix goes to the finals. That was the year the Lakers had all those injuries and Kawhi goes down and the Nuggets weren't fully healthy either. They didn't have Murray. That was the year Murray got hurt in like March and Murray didn't play and they go all and the Jazz were a fake 1 seed. The Jazz were just never the Mitchell Gobert Jazz were just never going to work. And so they're kind of stuck. And I know that sucks for the Clipper fans that they're stuck, but I don't know. I liked watching them last year. And I loved watching them play Denver in that series. And yeah, I think they got worse by exchanging Norman Powell for John Collins, but at the end of the day, if they would have gone out next summer and given Norman Powell some crazy contract, or if they had done it this summer and given him some ridiculous extension, I'd have probably shit on them for that even more so. So whatever. It's in and the Jazz. They just said, yeah, Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson. They're both old as fuck. Sure. We'll take them in a second round pick and probably waive both of them. Fuck it. We're the Jazz. We don't care. We say we're not tanking anymore, but we just suck. So it doesn't matter. And I don't know. That might be it. Has anything else happened? We're still on Russell Westbrook watch. At least I am. I still want to know where he ends up. And Chris Paul. Oh yeah, Chris Paul said in some interview that this is likely that this is going to be his last season. He said somebody asked him how many more years are you going to play. He said at most one. So the Chris Paul retirement tour will be taking place somewhere. We don't know where because he's still not signed. And yeah, I guess I think that's about it. I don't think anything else is really. I don't think I missed much last week. I think I covered a lot of what happened. There's the restricted free agents. There's a little weird thing going on with these restricted guys. Kuminga and it's Kuminga, Josh Giddey, Quentin Grimes in Philly, and Cam Thomas from Brooklyn. These are the restricted guys that are in this weird. It's this weird thing with this second apron that is essentially a hard cap, where teams don't want to give out money to these kind of guys anymore. The value of Josh Giddey in years past would be, well, we're the Bulls. He's our best player, so we have to pay him like he's our best player. And I think we're finally entering an age where that's not the case, where if you're just not good enough, you're just not good enough. And I love Josh Giddey, that's my guy, the Giddler, but it's, they don't want to pay him $35 million a year because at the end of the day, if you're paying Josh Giddey 35 million a year, that means he's gonna probably have to be one of your two or three best guys on a championship team, and that's just not gonna work. Granted, that's not why the Bulls don't want to do it, because the Bulls know they're not close to winning a championship. The Bulls don't want to do it because Reinsdorf is fucking a cheap son of a bitch who is still he's making money off of Jordan still after fucking all of these like 30, 25, 40 years. He's just making money off of Jordan. He doesn't give a fuck about the Bulls. He doesn't really want to win. He owns the White Sox too. He owns two franchises and like a top three sports market in America, and he doesn't give a fuck about either of them actually being any good. Like if you stack up American sports markets, it's like LA, New York, Chicago, in theory, should be right fucking there because it's Chicago. It's just that the teams in Chicago have sucked it's the Bears and the White Sox and the Bulls and the Cubs, even though the Cubs the Cubs are actually decent. They won a championship in the last 10 years. And I think they're pretty good right now too, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're a playoff team at least, which is better than pretty much every other Chicago team can say. The Cubs, yeah, the Cubs are winning their division right now. They're 54-36. They're second in the NL right now. So that's like the only successful team in that market is the Cubs. And Reinsdorf owns two of the other ones. I don't know who owns the Bears, but they clearly don't know what they're doing either. So that's why they don't want to give Giddey money, not because they're like, oh, we're worried about our ability to win a championship with him. They're like, we're worried about how much we have to go into the luxury tax. And this is something I have thought about a little bit in the recent when Miles Turner signed with the Bucks and the Pacers didn't bring him back, and it felt like the reason the Pacers didn't want to bring him back is because they didn't want to pay the luxury tax. I thought there is still levels to this cap stuff. The second apron was essentially introduced to avoid teams because there was years where Golden State was like so deep into the luxury tax because their owner has a lot of fucking money and he didn't give a fuck. He was like, fuck it, we'll spend. Doesn't matter. We're gonna, we have Steph, we have Dre and Clay and these guys, and we're gonna try to keep winning championships. And the Celtics were like that before this year, where they were like, fuck it, we don't care. We're fielding a championship team. We're going to pay the luxury tax. It doesn't matter. The second apron was meant to kind of get rid of that, where it's like, okay, well, not only is it being this deep into the tax going to cost you money, it's going to cost you flexibility. You're not going to be able to make trades unless the dollars match exact. You can't take in a player. Trades have to be 1-for-1 player wise. You can't trade two players for a guy and a first. You have to trade 1-for-1 or 2-for-2 or 3-for-3. Those are just some of the rules about it. And so now we see the different, and we saw this before, but we really see it now. It's like, okay, who's serious about winning championships with these teams that are avoiding spending so they can get out of the luxury tax versus avoiding spending if they can get out of the second apron. The second apron you really have to get out of because you can't, So like Denver and Boston and these teams, they're trying to cut their salaries down, not because they don't want to pay, but because they don't have a choice. They have to cut these salaries down or they won't be able to move anything. They won't be able to do anything at the deadline. They won't be able to be in the buyout market. They won't be able to do shit. So they don't have a choice. Teams like the Pacers and the Bulls, they don't want to do it because they don't want to pay the extra money that comes with being in the luxury tax. Denver and Golden State and these teams are like, we're fine being in the luxury tax. We just can't be in the second apron because then it hurts our basketball team and not our pockets. Guys like Reinsdorf and whoever owns fucking like Utah and the Bulls or the Bulls is Reinsdorf, but what's the other team out? The Pacers. Whoever owns the Pacers, they don't want to pay the luxury taxes. They don't want to spend the extra money. And Halliburton getting hurt in that Game 7 really gave the Pacers an excuse to not pay the luxury tax. Because before that, it was kind of like they're not going to have a choice but to pay it now because they have to bring Miles Turner back because they're in the finals. They're either about to win a championship or they're about to be, you know, they lost in the finals. And you can't just like, oh, we don't want to bring that team back because we have to pay the luxury tax. You can't do that. The Pacers fans would not have gone for that shit. But because Halliburton got hurt, and because it's like, oh, well, next year kind of doesn't matter anyways. We're kind of probably going to end up tanking next year because we don't have Halliburton. And what's the point if we don't have him? They were like, well, then we might as well not give Miles Turner this big contract and give him a bunch of money for a year that doesn't matter. And so it's like it almost gave him an excuse not to do it, even though they fucking definitely had to do it. Like they shouldn't have let him go. And yeah, the Bucks gave him a ton of money. But whatever, like you have to, if you want to be a serious franchise, you have to do shit like that, and it's not always gonna work. And look at the Bucks, because the Bucks did that with the Dame thing, the Dame deal. It was not a good deal in hindsight. It did not work out for them at all. They probably would have been better if they had just kept Drew Holiday and just ran it back. But we didn't know that at the time. I loved the deal at the time. I'll never shit on the Bucks for that deal because I've seen a lot of people doing that. Literally like, oh, the Bucks, what a terrible decision. I can't believe they did that. It's like that was a great deal at the time. I would have made that deal 10 times out of 10 back in 2023 or whatever because Dame was coming off of like one of his best seasons ever in 23. You have to do that trade. And it didn't work and it was a disaster and it's fucked them in more ways than one. Not only just by the fact that they haven't been good in the playoffs the last 2 years and they've gotten beaten by Indiana twice, and now that they've got this deal stretched out where they have to pay Dame all this money for the next 5 years, it's it didn't work. It was a disaster, complete unmitigated disaster. It fucked them in more ways than one. But I'd still do it every time because it was a risk worth taking then. So I'll never shit on them for that. The Miles Turner one though, we might have to shit on them in a few years. Well, we'll see. That's a lot of money for Miles Turner. I do like it. I defended it when it happened. I still will defend it, but I don't know. It might. I can definitely see how it won't work. I can definitely see how it's December and we're talking about Giannis trades again, and I can see how we get to the deadline and we're talking about how Giannis is on the Spurs now, or a year from now in the summer, we're talking about what team Giannis is on. Giannis is on the Knicks or the Spurs or Houston or whoever. Um, I I went into that because I was talking about Josh Giddey. Don't you love to see that? Kuminga is a weird one too because the Warriors are doing this thing where they are saying things that we all know they don't believe. Because we're talking about sign and trades right now, essentially, with Kuminga. That's kind of where it feels like we're going to have to go. Because they clearly don't want him back. So the Warriors are telling the league, they're saying, hey, if we're going to sign and trade you Kuminga, we want like another young guy back in return, or like, young guy and draft pick in return. But what they told us all year long was, hey, this guy's not actually any good. Because not only can he not crack the playoff rotation, he can't even crack the regular season rotation. So they told us all year long, hey, this guy sucks. We don't like him. We don't want him. And now they're telling everybody, hey, he's like, we need first round picks and young players in exchange for him. It's like, you don't fucking think that. You clearly don't think that. If you thought he was that good, he would have been playing in the postseason for you. If you thought he was that good, we wouldn't be at this point. You'd have just signed him by now. You'd have just given him some contract, and he'd be on the team, and you'd be getting ready for the off-season programs and stuff with Kuminga on the roster. They clearly don't think he's good. They clearly don't like him. So just fucking, like, what are we doing? Like, you're not getting that much value back for a guy that you've told the entire league, hey, this guy's not good. This guy can't play for us. and we're trying to move off of him, and we've got guys like Quentin Post playing in big time playoff minutes, and we think that guy's better than Kuminga. But we also need a young player and a first round pick if we're gonna trade him. It's like that's fucking dumb. There was this Miami. There was this talk about Miami before the free agency even started. It was like, oh, Miami's gonna go hard after him, and then they just didn't. It's like Miami is preparing to make an offer to Kuminga, and they just never did. Um, I miss Woj, man. I miss Woj very deeply. I love Woj. Um, he shams be lying, man. Woj, sources and all this stuff. It can never be 100%, and I get that. But it feels like whenever Woj got something wrong, it was like a genuine, like, all right, my bad. Like I trusted the source, or I still trust the source. I stand by my words. It just didn't happen that way. It feels like Sham just be lying, bro. Like Sham just be saying shit. And Sham's never. He's always. The way I always have described it in my head is that Woj cared the most about getting the story first, but also getting it right. Shams is just like, I'm getting it out there, and then I'll figure out what actually is going on later. So he'll be like, oh, trade. The Clippers are sending Norman Powell to Miami, and then we have to wait like 10 minutes to learn that, oh, Utah is actually also involved, and it's for John Collins, and Miami is sending, it's like we have to wait to get this information until later. Because Shams just wants to put the tweet out first so it gets likes and comments, and then we can figure out what actually happened. So, I don't know. I just feel like Woj would never mislead me on purpose, and I think Sham lies all the fucking time. And I think he knows what he's doing. And I don't know why that came into my head. Something about Kuminga and trades. Oh, that's what it was, because the Miami things, I just think that wasn't true. I don't. Miami has done nothing to show me that they would be interested in giving a bunch of money to a guy like Kuminga. Like when has that been the Miami mantra? If we're gonna give a ton of money to this restricted free agent that we don't really know who he is or what he does or if he's any good or not, and we're just gonna give him a bunch of money because we want to. It's like that they don't do that. That's not how they operate. So I think, and I don't even know if that was Shams, by the way, who said that first. Whoever said that first, though, I think they fucking were lying, or they trusted a really bad source, because that doesn't make sense to me. Quentin Grimes and Cam Thomas, I assume that'll get done with Philly and Brooklyn, respectively. I very clearly understand why there's not markets for those guys, especially Cam. I don't like Cam Thomas. A lot of people like Cam Thomas. They're like, oh, look at his scoring output, and oh, he had that stretch 3 years ago where Kyrie was hurt and he had like 40 in 3 straight games, and Cam Thomas, he can really hoop. I just don't. I don't see it. I'm not a fan. He can score, but can he really do anything else? And if my offense is, hey, Cam Thomas, go get me 30, there's a reason the Nets have been dog shit ever since KD and Kyrie left, because that offense is not good. That's not gonna work. Cam Thomas is leading your team. That's not gonna work. I don't think he's good. I think he's probably like best off as like a six man. And some people try to talk about him as like, oh no, he can be like a starter. He can be like a third guy on a good team. It's like, no, he can't. He's not. Respectfully, he's not that good. Talked about Chris Paul. Talked about Al Horford. Russ. The last thing we heard from Russ was something about Sacramento. That's the only team I've really heard interested. People have talked about the Knicks, but I don't know if the Knicks have ever really seriously looked into it. Oh fuck. Excuse me, cut that out. 31. Damn it, am I getting sick again? Okay, cut that out. Westbrook. The last thing we heard from Westbrook was something about Sacramento. And the last thing I saw was that they were interested in signing him and Schroeder, and they already signed Schroeder. So we'll see if Russ ends up on Sacramento. I really hope that doesn't fucking happen. Um, that would just suck. That would suck. It's as a Thunder fan, it has hurt. It has really hurt seeing Russ in all these fucking jerseys over the last few years. And man, adding Sacramento onto that list would just that that would fucking kill me, man. Sacramento, the leader in the pack when it comes to the dumb team race. Sacramento gets Russ. That would suck. Dame is out there now in free agency. I don't honestly expect Dame to sign this year. I think Dame's probably just gonna sit in free agency for a year and then sign next summer when he's healthy and ready to go. Um, Unless he just signs with Portland. I think that's the most likely team he signs with. I think if he's going to sign anywhere this summer, I think it's going to be Portland, and he's just going to go to Portland and rehab there for a year, and everybody's going to love having Dame around again, and he's going to help those young guys along and all that stuff, and then his contract will expire and he'll go sign somewhere else a year later. Um, I think that's pretty much all like the interesting guys left. Um, I'm excited to see where Russ and Chris Paul end up. I'm excited to see how much money Josh Giddey gets. Uh, I hope as much as possible. I hope my guy gets bagged up. Um, yeah, that's probably about it as far as the NBA goes. I mean, we're only about 30 minutes into the show here, and I have to come up with stuff to talk about now for a half hour to make it officially Beans Ball Hour. Um, I did have some stuff I wanted to say. I wanted to, because it's a new show, and because in theory I hope more people watch this than just the people on my Snapchat that know my takes already. So I think I should just like talk a little bit about like I think I should just talk a little bit more about my NBA experiences, and I frame this in my head as my NBA canon events, and like what kind of got me into the league. Because what got me into the league was honestly NBA 2K and watching NBA 2K YouTubers like Cash and Jesser and LSK and Agent Zero and that kind of LNU, Epic High, TD, guys like that kind of era of YouTube. And it was especially like Cash, and and I took on the Cash hating the Warriors and hating Steph because I did love KD and I was a Thunder guy, and it was kind of like, yeah, fuck Steph, fuck this little guy who runs around and shoots threes. Yeah, Cash is right. So, um yeah, I remember watching a lot of that stuff. It was like NBA 2K15, NBA 2K14. I remember I got NBA 2K15 for Christmas because I asked for it because I watched Agent Zero rebuilding the Lakers on 2K15 My GM mode. And I wanted to do it too. And so I got the game, and the first thing I did was I rebuilt the Lakers on my GM mode and fucking used code. I play NBA 2K15 more than any 2K probably ever. I love that game. I still play that game all. The point is, I remember watching I remember watching a regular season Thunder game on TNT or ESPN or whatever it was on. I don't remember who the Thunder were playing, but we were at home. We were wearing the white jerseys, and I just remember seeing Westbrook. And because I was a very casual basketball fan for like the first 10 years of my life. Like not even casual. Like I didn't know much at all. Like I was watching wrestling, I was watching football, I was watching fucking Nickelodeon. Basketball was not Basketball was not in my wheelhouse. I was like, I know LeBron's on Miami, I know Kobe's on the Lakers, and I know that's about it. And I know Tim Duncan on the Spurs, and that was like all I knew from that little 2010 on era. So I remember when I saw Westbrook for the first time, and God, he was just so fucking, he was so ridiculous. Like the athletic nature of Westbrook at that time. That's what makes me so mad when people talk about Westbrook now and they want to use this version of Westbrook when we talk about him as a player, because it's like you guys are just, you're doing a complete disservice to one of the most, I tweeted this the other day, that Russ, I think, is genuinely the most unique player of our era. And I say that because how often do you see guys getting comped to Westbrook? You don't. Yeah, there's never been another guy like Kevin Durant who is as good as Kevin Durant, who does it at as high of a level as Kevin Durant. But we do have the Brandon Ingrams, who everybody saw come in and was like, hey, this guy looks like Kevin Durant. And Michael Porter Jr., hey, this guy looks like Kevin Durant. He's tall, he's lengthy, he can shoot jumpers, he's got dribble moves. Neither of those guys have ever come anywhere near as close to as good as Durant. But they're a little similar to Durant. Curry always had Dame, it feels like. There was times where everybody we had to debate, oh, is Dame actually better than Curry now? Who's actually the better? Is Dame as good a shooter as Steph? It's like the answer was always no. It was always obviously no. But the comp was there because Dame did some of the same stuff Steph did. And LeBron, famously, we don't, hey LeBron, we're good. Ben Simmons is here. He's here. The savior Ben Simmons is here because everybody was watching, or not everybody, but Colin Cowherd was watching Ben Simmons and saying, hey, this guy looks like LeBron. And Zion coming in, everybody's like, hey, this guy Zion, maybe Zion plays like LeBron. He's athletic and dunks and runs and plays defense and stuff. He's like LeBron. And again, these comparisons are always bad because they're never as good as LeBron, but they're comparisons for a reason. And people now a lot say stuff about Paolo. Oh, I didn't talk about Paolo's contract. Paolo got a big contract, like 5 years, 285 million or something. I should probably bring that up. Paolo Banchero, 5 year, 287 million with 239. Oh, okay, 239 million contract, but it could reach up to 287 million. All right, that's me bringing up Paolo. Paolo, they compare Paolo to LeBron. They say, people on Twitter, they say all the time, but Paolo should play like LeBron, but people have convinced him that he needs to play like Carmelo and shoot turnaround jumpers and fadeaways and post up game and face up stuff. Because people watch him and they say, oh my God, this looks like LeBron. Who do you watch and say this looks like Westbrook? I haven't seen anyone. I haven't found it. It's not like it would have to. Ja, I don't think Ja looks like Westbrook. I don't think Ja's anywhere near as twitchy and fast as Westbrook was. I don't think Ja is anywhere near as good of a passer as Westbrook. I just don't think Ja is anywhere near as good. I don't think they look the same. I don't think they look for the same stuff. I don't think Fox looks for that stuff either. I don't think it's just there's you get a feel when you watch somebody for long enough, you start to get a feel for their stuff and what they do and their movements and their mannerisms, and I've never seen anybody like Westbrook. And maybe I'm crazy because I am a fan and because that is my guy. And maybe it is there. Maybe there is somebody there that I just haven't seen enough of that maybe I just don't want to see it because I want this take to be right. But I saw there was a 27-minute highlight the other day somebody put on Twitter of Westbrook clutch time field goal attempts from his 2017 MVP season. And it was 27 minutes long. It was 27 minutes of Westbrook taking clutch shots in that season. That team had no one, man. That team had no one. And I just was watching I didn't watch all 27 minutes of it. I watched a lot of it though, and I was just watching him and his movements and the way he moved then, and I miss that guy. I miss that guy a lot. I can't state enough how important Westbrook is to my fandom in basketball and to a lot of Thunder fans' fandom in basketball. And he was just so special to watch. If just watch the highlights, man. Go back, find full games on YouTube. Watch highlights. Go find that game against Denver from that season, the game where he clinched the triple double record. He clinched I think he clinched averaging a triple double in that game. He had like 50 or 60 and I think he had 50. He hit the three to win the game. They do the play with the Steven Adams screen, and Westbrook pulls a deep three. Find that game. It's probably out there somewhere. Great jersey matchup too. Denver, I think, was wearing their like yellow jerseys, and OKC was wearing the orange ones. It doesn't sound like it should be appealing, but it is. It was. I like that jersey matchup, and I love those orange OKC jerseys. I don't like the ones we have now. I don't. I think they're a little too bright orange. I think I kind of like the darker orange a little better. Um, but yeah, I remember seeing Westbrook for the first time on the screen, and it was just like, whoa, this guy's a fucking bullet. Like, what the fuck? And Durant Durant always. I mean, Durant stood out to everybody. I mean, you can know nothing about basketball, see Durant, and be like, whoa, that guy is fucking different. Like, that guy's unique. Um, and especially at that time he was, because at that point there wasn't the Brandon Ingrams and MPJs where it was really was just Durant then. At that point Durant was the most unique player we had ever seen. Um and yeah, I love Durant. I have a Durant bobblehead from back then. I have a Durant jersey. Adidas Durant jersey from back then. Um and man, can't talk about Mike Cannon events without that 2016 playoff run being heavily mentioned. And you know what? That's because I don't want this to be a Thunder segment. I want this to be a basketball. Obviously, the Thunder have a huge part in my journey because it's my team and because I've watched them more than I've watched anyone else. But I've watched a lot of other basketball. And one night I remember very vividly was the last night of that regular season. And there was two games on. One was on ESPN, one was on NBA TV. It was Golden State versus Memphis. Golden State was at 72 wins. If they beat Memphis, they would have gotten to 73 and broke the record, which we know they did. The other game was Jazz at Lakers, and it was Kobe's last game. And I remember that whole day being like, God, which one do I watch? Do I watch the Warriors break the record, or do I watch Kobe's last game? And I made the right choice. I said, I have to watch Kobe's last game. I have to. Because Kobe at that point, people remember that last season from that game and the retirement tour. But Lakers games that year were not fun to watch. They sucked. The D'Angelo Russell Nick Young thing might have happened that year. It might not have been until the next year, but I don't remember. The coach was Byron Scott still the coach. Like they weren't good, and Kobe was just going out there and putting up a ton of shots. He was only averaging like 14 points a game. It was bad, man. It was bad hoops. But it was Kobe, and it was the retirement tour, and every place they went, the fans were going crazy for him, and it was electric. But God, that team was not fun to watch because it was literally just Kobe shoot as many times as you want. Please miss all of them because we want to get Karl Anthony Towns in the draft or who was or Ben Simmons. It was probably Ben Simmons. Yeah, because I think that was when they got Brandon Ingram. But I picked to watch Jazz at Lakers, and thank fuck I picked that because I don't know what I would have been able to do with myself if I knew that Kobe scored 60 in his last game, and it was that game was fun. Because it was the same. It was Kobe took like 50 shots in that game. But it didn't matter because it was the last one. They were playing the Jazz. I think the Jazz were like kind of locked into a playoff spot at that point, or maybe they weren't. I don't remember. That was like the Gordon Hayward. That was the year before the breakout year for Gordon Hayward, where he might have been an All-Star, but he might not have been. It was close. And Gobert was still developing, and I don't even remember who they had on that team. They had probably Royce O'Neal. They had Trevor Booker. They weren't good, but they were like kind of still like, oh, this Gordon Hayward guy's pretty good. He's fringe. They might. And then I think the next year they made the playoffs. But it was the Jazz, and it felt like there was nothing to play for. And it was Kobe. It was Kobe just being Kobe, and it was so fun. And I watched that game, and I remember watching it in my room, and every time Kobe took a shot, you just hoped it was gonna go in, and it did. And it was like, oh, he got to 40. Oh, can he get to 50? Can he get to 50? And then he gets to 50, and we're kind of like, oh, there's still time. Can he get to 60? I don't know. I don't know if he can get to 60. And I remember he was missing shots late in the game. It was like, fuck, he's not gonna get there. He's not gonna make it. And then they have to play the foul game late, and he hits the free throws, and he makes it to 60. And it was this perfect moment. It was like there's never gonna be a better final game in the NBA because this game perfectly encapsulates the career of Kobe. Just this ridiculous outburst in scoring. The Lakers, the team around him, it feels like is just not good. It's not good enough. It's reminiscent of like the mid 2000s teams where it was just Kobe and no one else after Shaq left and before they got Powell, and it felt right. It felt like the perfect way to close the book on the story of Kobe Bryant's basketball career, and that was a moment watching that game that I'll never forget as a fan, and like that being one of the moments that made basketball like because that was still like 2 years in to me watching the sport, really caring about the sport. And so having that moment is like, wow, like that was that that was one of the games that like sealed basketball in my heart of like, okay, this is my shit. Like I can't get enough of this. And the Warriors breaking the record on the same night. That's like one of those trivia questions that like nobody ever thinks about it. Like we just know, hey, the Warriors broke the record, and we know Kobe scored 60 in his last game, and it was awesome. But nobody ever talks about the fact that it was on at the same time on the same night. And that there is definitely people out there that chose to watch the Warriors game over the Lakers Kobe game, and I'm happy I wasn't one of them because I almost was. Because I like those Memphis teams too. I was like, come on, Memphis can beat them. They're not gonna. Memphis can stop them from breaking the record. They can keep it at 72-10, and they didn't. I liked Mike Conley and Gasol and Zebo and those guys. Um, yeah, I feel like that was a part of my journey in becoming a basketball fan, and obviously the 16 playoffs, fucking heartbreaking. I mean, I remember when we matched up, we beat Dallas in round one and five, and that was like the end of Dallas with Dirk. It was like their last hurrah. They had like Monte Ellis, and I don't even they. It was just in my head the team was just Monte Ellis and Dirk. That was after they traded for Rondo, and it didn't work. Chandler Parsons was on that team, I think. They traded for Dirk. They traded for Rondo. It was a complete disaster. They traded him to like Sacramento or something. They just had to get rid of him. Uh, that team was just not good. We beat him in five. And I remember when we matched up with the San Antonio. Because San Antonio, that's another thing. That 2016 season legitimately is one of the best seasons I think there ever. I don't know how you can have a season better than that. Like Kobe's retirement tour, LeBron and Kyrie on Cleveland, the 73 win Warriors, the 68 win Spurs right behind them, Westbrook and Durant in OKC. It was a really fun Isaiah Thomas. They didn't have Al Horford, and so it was Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk and like Jared Sullinger, and they were like a 7 seed, and they were a fun team. And the Wall, Beal, Otto Porter, Marcin Gortat Wizards, just a bunch of, and the Grit and Grind Grizzlies, which we talked about a second ago. A lot of fun teams. The Lob City Clippers, um, the remnants of the 2015 Hawks. They weren't that good in 2016. Um, yeah, I think oh yeah, I remember when we matched up with San Antonio because that was the first year with LaMarcus. They'd signed LaMarcus in the offseason and that was another time everybody thought, "Oh, LaMarcus is going to go to the Lakers." And then that was a pairing. That summer was a pairing that nobody remembers. That the Lakers were going to pair LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan in LA, and it was going to be those two and D'Lo and whoever they drafted, and they were gonna the Lakers were gonna be back, and then DeMar stayed in Toronto, and LaMarcus went to San Antonio, and nobody ever talked about that one again. Um, and they ended up pairing up later in the end, anyways, in San Antonio. But that Spurs team was ridiculous. They only lost like one game all year at home. It was I did not think we were gonna beat them. I was terrified of them, as I should have been. They were because they still had Duncan, and Duncan wasn't Duncan obviously, but he was still good. He was still like above average. He was good. He was at least good. And so I remember watching that series and not thinking we were going to beat them until we did. And then, game 6 was in OKC, and it was like, we have to win this game because if we don't, we're going back to that fucking hellhole for game 7. And we got the job done. And then it was like, I remember being full confidence, like, hey, if we can beat the Spurs, we can beat Golden State. Fuck it, I know they won 73 games. I'm not, we just beat the fucking 69 win Spurs or 68 win Spurs. Like, what can't we do now? And then those first 4 games going up 3-1, it was just, you know, it felt it felt incredible because I was like, not only are we gonna go to the finals, but we're gonna get through this ridiculous path of the 68 win Spurs and then the 73 win Warriors, and then we're gonna go and beat LeBron and just kind of stamp the legacy of Durant and Westbrook. And it didn't happen. In Game 6, Clay, I said it in, I think, my Game 7 video. Game 6 Clay ruined my life for a decade of basketball, because then Durant leaves and goes to the Warriors, and it leaves Westbrook by himself. And like I was talking about, I have very fond memories of those Westbrook years by himself, and then the couple years with Paul George. But it was not better than if Durant would have stayed, and we would have continued contending for championships. You know, um, and like I think I've talked about it. I'm over the Durant thing now. I get it. I look back at those teams and I think about the era of basketball that we entered, and I say, yeah, there's no way in hell that we would have been able to win with that team. It would have took a lot. It would have took a lot of moving from Sam Presti to get that done, and it's Presti, so he maybe he would have pulled it off, but it would have took so much. I just don't think it would have. I don't think it would have turned out because the roster wasn't good enough, and we would have been leaving Durant on an island, or Durant and Westbrook on an island with little to no help. And I get why he left. I definitely am still mad he went to the Warriors. I mean, he could have went to Washington or Boston or the Clippers or the Knicks or whoever, anywhere else but the Warriors. Hell, if he would have found his way to Cleveland, it would have been better than fucking going to the Warriors. But yeah, that the Durant stuff, man. It's like at the end of the day, he was still my favorite player, and he did kind of get me into basketball. And I love watching him. I loved watching him playing in Golden State too. It was like I hated it, but I loved it. It was because it was still Durant, and it was like Durant at an intensified level because he did have so much around him, and it just sucked that it was Golden State, and it just sucked that it kind of shut the league down for 3 years. Um, but yeah, I don't blame him for leaving. I don't like that people try to make it out that he left because of Westbrook. They say, oh, well, the team was good enough to win. It was because he didn't want to play with Russell anymore. And it's like, I just don't think that's true. I don't think that team was good enough to win. I look back on it now, and I think even if we did beat Golden State, we probably would have lost to the Cavs anyways. Because LeBron, that team was on him. That Cavs team was supposed to be the super team of that era. And then Durant went to the Warriors and kind of fucked it up for everybody, especially Cleveland. Um, so I don't think we would have. I don't think we ever would have. I don't think we ever would have won if Durant stayed at this point. I think I've matured and grown enough to say that the way the league was heading and the way that roster was built, I don't think it would have worked. I don't think Presti would have. I mean, maybe if we got Al Horford that summer, because that was a thing. It was like if Durant stays, Al Horford might go there to play with his old Florida coach Billy Donovan. And if that would have happened, maybe I could see it a little more. If the starting lineup that year would have been like Westbrook, Oladipo, Durant, I don't know, Steven Adams and Horford probably wouldn't. Steven Adams probably would have had to get traded, or Cantor and Horford, or I don't know. Just go fucking sign some. I don't. But ah, that's too many ifs, man. That's too many ifs. So I don't think it would have. I think it worked out fine for us in the end. You know, if Durant doesn't leave, we never trade for Paul George. If we never trade for Paul George, we never trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If we never trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we're not here where we are right now as NBA champions. And speaking of NBA champion Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Shams tweeted today that he is going to be on the cover of 2K26, which means, unfortunately for me, I have to buy it now. And I have to buy a physical copy, and I have to buy the fucking disc, and I have to get the cover, and I have to buy, if there's a special edition with him on the cover, I have to fucking buy that one too. And I have to buy 2K again, which just kind of sucks. I just kind of don't want to do that. I probably won't even play it. I'll probably just buy it, and I'll probably do like a Kobe era Sonics rebuild again, and I'll probably play a few games of my team, and I probably won't make a build because I don't like playing. I don't like playing Park, and my career is just so dog shit now because it's not a my career. It's a Park. It's a excuse to get you to the my Park or whatever the fuck they call it now. It's not, and the park isn't even good anymore. It's not fun. I don't like it. It's cheesy. It's sweaty. It's not, you know. I can do a whole hour episode on the downfall in my brain of 2K, what I think went wrong, when I stopped caring, and the fact that I was always a my team guy, so it never really mattered. You know, I can do a complete down. I can talk about how in 2K20 when they added position locks, that ruined the game. Because in 2K19 everybody was mad at people building lineups with like they would have lineups with like the 20th anniversary Giannis at point guard and like the 20th anniversary LeBron at shooting guard and Paul George and KG and like Yao. Like their lineup would just be, it would be like LeBron and Giannis at point guard and Kawhi, and they would just have all these defensive stoppers. And if you wanted to play the game normally and have a normal lineup and like, oh, I want to use Steph, it's like you can't because he's going to be getting guarded by LeBron, and small players on 2K suck, and if you're being guarded by LeBron with a small guy, you're going to be fucked. Um, and then in 2K20, they're like, we're going to fix it. We're going to make position locks. And then the most obvious thing ever happened, and they said, hey, Galaxy Opal LeBron point guard coming out tomorrow, buy packs. So you can still use your cheesy. You can still do the cheesy lineups and put LeBron and Giannis and point guard. It's just you're gonna have to pay more to do it. Buy packs. You know, the cards are now worth 8 million MT on the auction house, which is a ridiculous number of MT. It's yeah. That was it for me when they did that. And 2K20 was the last one. I played 22 a lot though. I won't lie. 22 I liked. 22 was probably the last one that I was really all in on. But I think that's just because they put it on Game Pass, and because Luca was on the cover. Um, he hit an hour, and I have to be at work in 40 minutes. So I think I'm gonna end it here. We can do more canon events later. Probably gonna have a guest. Probably gonna have guests on soon. I've got people lined up that want to come on. So if you want to come on, let me know, comments or DM me on whatever social platform you prefer. The links are always in the description. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be talking about NFL soon because the preseason starts at like the end of the month. I think the Hall of Fame game is on like June 28th or something. It's ridiculously early, but we're getting into training camp soon and preseason and then we'll be ready to go for the regular season. So we'll start talking NFL. I don't know. What else? I could talk about wrestling at some point on this show. I haven't watched much wrestling lately, even though I do love wrestling. Um, I might, maybe I'll talk about the 2002 WWF that I'm watching. Maybe I'll talk about, I wanted to watch that CM Punk John Cena match from Saudi Arabia, but it happened. It happened when I was at work and I didn't know it was happening. And like 2 days later, I seen like a post about it. I've seen nothing about the match. Maybe I'll watch that match and talk about it. I'll talk about baseball, maybe. I haven't been able to watch Mariners games as much because I don't have cable anymore. And the fucking streaming sites, they don't want to work at my house for some reason. I don't get it. So I haven't been watching as many Mariner games as I have in the last few years. But I do want to give Cal his flowers at some point because he is on pace for a historic season. And for watching. Thanks for supporting. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bells. I am gonna try and figure out how to get these on audio at some point on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I haven't done it yet. I haven't looked into it yet because I'm lazy. But I will do that, so you can just listen to it if you want at some point. I hope. Obviously, I'll let you guys know when that comes up. I think there's a process that I have to go through, which means I should probably start the process sooner rather than later instead of just fucking around doing nothing. But hey, we'll see. We'll figure it out. All right, that's it.